Hello and welcome. I'm Kerry Rowett of awakenkinesiology.com and alignandattract.com. So thank you so much for joining me for today's webinar, which is about how to get comfortable being more visible. And I'm going to help you to really identify what your own specific fears and blocks are. So if you have a piece of paper and pen handy, that would be really great. If you don't for any reason, that's also totally fine, because you can think it through as we go along. And the most important thing is we're going to be doing a bit of an energy shift for you, and we're going to be holding some different acupressure points and doing some visualization to help you to shift your energy and to shift your internal blocks so that you can feel more comfortable being more visible. Cool. I just got a little message saying it failed to go live, but it looks like we're back. Good. So let's get into it and start really looking at this topic of visibility, because it is something that comes up for quite a lot of my clients and also participants who are in Align and Attract. And it's something that if you're in business, it can really hold us back if we are not comfortable being visible, and if our fears and our blocks come up. So when can it come up? Well, certainly when you're right at the start of your business, it can definitely come up then as a big fear, because you might be worried about friends and family and what they're going to think, and then, you know, getting your message out to more people and how that's going to be. A lot of people worry about criticism and judgment and how that they're going to react and respond to that. For some people, their fears of visibility come up, maybe not so much online, but when they think about speaking in public and speaking to groups, and they can see themselves running workshops or speaking to bigger groups of people, and they just feel so scared or blocked around that they don't actually do it. And also for some people, visibility can look like, you know, owning your truth and speaking your truth. And that might be in a business sense, but it also might be just within your family and friend network and, you know, in what you do day to day. That can be what being more visible is about for you. For some people, the idea of being visible, it really brings up these fears of being exposed or being vulnerable. And it's like also around that, really being able to own who you are and own your message as well. So it can bring up, you know, challenges around that. What do I really want to say? What do I really want to express? And is this really like my full truth? And can I feel comfortable to express my truth? And also, sometimes I find with my clients or people in Align and Attract, they can also have a different kind of challenge. Maybe they do feel like they really want to be more visible and they want to grow their business and they want to expand and they want to achieve more success, attract more clients, have more participants in programs, sell more books, whatever it is. And they actually just feel like blocked and frustrated around that because they want it, but they're like, I don't know how to achieve that. So today, whatever your specific challenges are, we're going to help you to really shift them, and so that you can then go ahead and take the actions that are going to lead to more visibility. Because you can sometimes just take the actions, or you can learn a system, or you can follow somebody's process. But if there are internal blocks around that and you're deep down still feeling anxious or worried or overwhelmed or whatever it is, then those actions won't work so well, and also we'll often sabotage ourselves or get in our own way or just won't follow through. So let's get into it. So, and what I really want is by the end of this webinar for you to be feeling really clear and really calm and really focused on what it is that you're going to do to help to create more visibility if that's what you want, and more clarity about what that actually means, because we're going to go into that, because what being more visible means for you is going to be very different maybe than what it means for me or for somebody else. So you're going to be able to define specifically what being more visible is for you, and why that you want to be more visible. And that is in fact where we're going to start. So if you've got your pen and paper, you can start jotting down notes or your own ideas around this as I am talking. So the first thing we're going to look at is, why do you want to be more visible? What is your purpose for doing that? Because we might say, I want to be more visible, but if we don't have a real reason for it, or if we just kind of think we should, or other people seem to be, or any of those kinds of reasons, well, it's going to be hard probably to find the motivation to take the actions that are going to lead to being more visible. So, like, as an example, maybe you want to shine a light on a particular issue or challenge, or you want to share something. You feel like you've got a pathway, or you've got an approach or a healing method or whatever it is, or a great product, and you want to shine light on that, and that might be your why. Maybe you want to contribute to a conversation around a bigger issue, and you want your voice to be heard in that community or by people who are also interested in that issue. So you want to be able to really speak up. Maybe you just want to feel really a lot more comfortable within yourself, and so more accepting of yourself, and you just want to feel like that when you want to express, that you can express, and you can feel comfortable to do that no matter what the size of group that it is that you're communicating to, or to feel just as comfortable doing that, talking to 20 people, 50 people, 1,000 people, as you might when you're talking to 1 or 2 people. For some of us, we might feel very comfortable just with our real inner circle, or if we work one-on-one with clients, as has been my experience throughout a lot of my business, to feel just as comfortable doing that as to feel comfortable talking to hundreds of people or thousands of people. So your why might be, you really think it is your soul's work that you're wanting to do. It is your purpose. And you feel like, well, I can't really achieve that unless I become more visible. It's a great why. What else might it be? You just might feel like, it's along those same lines, you might feel a sense of calling, that I feel like I'm being guided to express and to show up, and to really talk in this space, and to share more of my learnings and teachings and understandings, awareness, whatever it is. And then it could also be you want to attract more clients or participants in your courses, or more buyers for a product, and you do know, well, to do that, more people need to see what it is that I'm doing. And I really want to have that opportunity to work with more people, help more people, and have more people experience what this great product that I sell, or whatever it is. So you feel like, well, I want to be more visible for that reason, because sometimes it is just numbers. Sometimes you might have a really great product or a really great service, and literally it's the case that not enough people are hearing about it. And so that's your motivation. Like, I need to be more visible for that reason. That's my why. And if you find yourself feeling like, well, I don't really want to be more visible, then you can really explore that as well. Like, why don't I want to be more visible? And does it matter? Like, at this time, do I need to be more visible? And I know for myself, there has been times, like earlier in my business, I've been in business for 8 years now, but earlier on, that I didn't feel very comfortable about being visible. And you know what? I was already booked out with great clients. And so part of the reason I didn't really pursue being more visible is I felt like I actually have the level of visibility I need at this time for the kind of business that I run at this time and that I love at this time. And that can change. So, you know, these days it's different because my business continues to be booked out with clients. But for those of you who don't know, I'm having a baby in 2017 in February. And, you know, I'm moving towards working more with my participants in Align and Attract. So I've got a different reason and motivation for wanting to create more visibility. And that's something that I will certainly be, you know, working on in the latter months of 2016. So your reason and motivation can change. And if you're not with it right now, maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't need more visibility right now. So see if you can start to really get some ideas about what is my why. Maybe you're like, all of them are. Great. That's totally fine as well. All right. Number 2, the second thing I want us to think about is, what does being more visible actually mean for me? And what does it actually look like? And that might include, what numbers am I actually talking about when I'm talking about more visibility? Some people, you know, that number might mean I have 10 people in a workshop, or I get 50 people to sign up for my webinar, or it might be that I'm communicating to thousands in a stadium. Like, it's going to vary wildly depending on your why and where you're at in your business and your life and what it is that you're wanting to achieve. So let's talk about some different examples. So your idea of being more visible might look like speaking on stages. So it might be like big groups. I want to be a keynote speaker at conferences. I want to run my own conferences. That's your like intention, your goal, your idea of what, you know, you really want to focus on. Jot that down. It might look like being more visible in traditional media. You're like, I want to be on morning TV, or I want to be quoted in the newspaper or quoted in magazines, or, you know, and my products are shown in magazines or on high profile blogs, or I want my writing to appear on some high profile blogs or articles, or, you know, or magazines. Your what might look like growing my social media numbers. So what kind of numbers would that look like? So how many followers might that be, like on Facebook or on Instagram or on different platforms? So remember, that's only just one part of visibility. Sometimes people can get quite caught up in the social media side, but there's, you know, plenty of different ways to be more visible as well. It might look like having more people on your mailing list. So it might be growing your mailing list to a certain size over a period of time. For you, what being more visible looks like might be being more recognized as a leader or as an authority in your field. It might look like getting a book deal or doing a workshop tour around Australia, or, you know, if you're outside of Australia where you are. It might look like being more comfortable to be yourself around family and friends. And it might look like speaking your truth. It might look like feeling really comfortable to be seen in photographs and in videos. So for some people, that can bring up blocks and challenges. So they can hide behind, you know, pretty quotes or stock images and don't feel comfortable to show who they are. And depending on your type of business, sometimes it can be really helpful for people to see who's behind the business and connect with that person. That does not have to mean through professional photos, obviously, but it's just that idea of that's what it might look like, being comfortable to show more of yourself and to see more of yourself. Could be on, you know, running webinars or being on podcasts. So jot it down. What does being more visible actually mean for you? Then number 3, I want you to ask yourself, is there anything practical holding me back? So I wanted to sneak this in there because sometimes we can feel like these are just excuses. And maybe some of them are, but maybe some of them do need to be addressed. And once you addressed it, then you'll feel more comfortable being visible. So the practical things I'm talking about are things like, if you're embarrassed about your website, let's just say, if you've got website shame, you might feel like there is, deep down, there is no way that you're going to be comfortable to have an influx of hundreds or thousands of extra people coming across your work because of, you've done some work to become more visible, and you're like, oh, and you're all seeing my website, I'm not comfortable with it. So even though it might sound like an excuse, if you can actually do something about it, and do it, quickly, crack on. So it doesn't mean having a massive rebrand. There might be quite simple things that you can do that are going to help you to feel, more comfortable about your online spaces. What else? You could be really unclear of your message, and that actually, it's a practical block. If you're not really clear on your message and what you want to say and why you're saying it, then that's something I really encourage you to work on, because you're not going to continue to speak up consistently and have a really clear voice and have a lot of confidence and passion if you're not really sure if this is your actual message or if you're going to change your message. And I always encourage, start by journaling. Start by just writing. If that's the right approach for you, it happens to be for me. So, write on your own blog, share on your own channels, and develop a lot of confidence in your own voice. And a lot of times you develop that confidence by doing it more and more and more. And as you do that more and more and more, you're creating a platform to then feel comfortable being more visible externally. Okay, and to speak up more because, you're really clear on what you're saying and why you're saying it, and your message it has that sense of clarity and depth. What else? Okay, this is an actual really sort of a funny one in a way. So for some people, they might feel like, I don't want to be more visible because I don't feel comfortable with how I look. And for some people, that might be, I don't feel comfortable with my weight. And sometimes I've had clients say this, it's like, I don't want to get my photo shoot done, or I don't want to have videos taken because I just don't feel good in my body, and I don't want to show, I don't want to show up at the moment. And that's not an example of like, well, wait. No, that's an example of really work on developing that confidence in who you are and how you look now, and dressing in a way that makes you feel really great now, and knowing you can be out there now sharing your message. And two people that I know, they happen to also be friends, but they've got high profile businesses, Denise Duffield-Thomas and Catherine Hocking, have both spoken about this. And you know what? They have at times said that they've had photo shoots or video shoots when they haven't felt so comfortable. Like they've said this publicly on their blogs and so on. And they have done it anyway, and they have rocked it, and they have rocking businesses. So that's not a one to to hold yourself back with. It's one to just really own who you are and how you look, and put your red lipstick on or whatever you want to do, and, show up and shine anyway. The other thing that can be a practical block that might be holding you back is inexperience. Occasionally people will tell me, I want to speak to big audiences, I want to be on big stages, or something along those lines. I want to be talking to thousands of people, but actually they're really at the relatively early stages of their business, and their own audience is relatively small. And in that case, it's totally okay to know, well, no wonder you don't feel comfortable, speaking to the thousands yet, because, it's a progression. And anyone who's on stage is talking to thousands of people, I bet you have a conversation with them, I bet they've done their time talking to their groups of 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, and, honing their message, blogging or writing in different formats, doing their own webinars or doing their own small workshops, and so on. So I would, if you're having that kind of, practical block of I'm not experienced enough yet, what's my next step now? What can I do now? That, it's leading longer term towards that bigger goal, but to think I'm going to be here, at the earliest stages of business, or not talking to very many people, I'm going to jump straight to the thousands, doesn't tend to work that way. And if it did, you might find, whoa, all my blogs are coming up and I'm really scared and I might sabotage or whatever. Okay, so there you go. Have a think about, for you, are there any practical things? Could be one of the ones I mentioned, or maybe for you it's something different. Okay, number 4. Now we're going to look at what are the emotional blocks that are holding you back. And these are the things that we often really think about when we, think about being more visible. Our fears and blocks come to the surface. So for you, I want you to think about, what are mine? What comes up to the surface for me? And really starting to own these. And we are, of course, going to help you to shift them, okay? So some of the ones I hear and I heard on my Facebook page and on Instagram when I was preparing for this webinar, and I was asking, what do people experience? Fear of criticism and of judgment. Now, that is a really big one. People think if I become more visible, my ideas and my work are going to be exposed to more people. Particularly, I have found for people who are in creative and healing and spiritual type professions, which is a lot of the people who I attract in my Align and Attract group program, there can be a lot of that kind of fear, like I'm putting myself out there, my heart, my work, my truth, and I've got this fear that it's going to be knocked down. Now, that could just be, present day situations. It might be you've seen it happen to other people, or you've heard about it happening. It might also be triggering old fears and times that you've been criticized or judged when you were at school. So I just have a think right now, did that ever happen to me when I was at school or at uni, or anytime I put myself out there, or I was having to do a talk or something and, I didn't feel comfortable, or somebody criticized me or something along those lines. Think about that. And if you're open to the idea, for some people, it might be like a past life thing. So that's another thing that can come up. Certainly in kinesiology sessions, that type of thing can come up. So the other types of things that can come up are just like terror, particularly when you think about speaking to big groups in a live situation. So like a Facebook Live, or it's a webinar, or it's a workshop, or it's, at a conference or something like that. And being on the spot in the moment, that can bring up real terror and fear and paralysis, just the idea. For some people, that will just prevent them from even going down that pathway. It could be overwhelm, and just as soon as you start thinking about the idea of doing something like that, it's like, it's just too much, it's too hard. Somebody said, it just freaks them out. So they actually prefer to be behind the scenes. And maybe that's you, and you can be jotting this down. Like, what are my emotional blocks? What comes up for me around this idea? Just the idea of everyone looking at you could bring up, like, I'm going to go blank. I'm going to forget what I was saying, or forget what I was supposed to say. The other thing that can come up is, I might show my true, authentic self and speak my truth, and then I might be rejected. And that can, of course, bring up, lots of fear, because, I've put myself out there and I've spoken my truth, and then I've been rejected or judged for that. So I will say, in order to feel comfortable with that, we need to obviously feel very comfortable within ourselves about what we are sharing. So in fact, I'll say, like, I saw Brené Brown. A lot of people will not be familiar with Brené Brown. I saw her speak live a few years ago, and she speaks about vulnerability. And she said, people say to her, oh my gosh, how do you get up on stage and be so vulnerable? She's like, this isn't vulnerability. Like, I have rehashed these stories with my therapist. I have got just so much peace around anything that I actually share. I don't share anything that makes me feel vulnerable. So you don't need to share anything that makes you feel vulnerable. If it's something from the past and you feel very comfortable and resolved and healed and clear around it, very different to sharing something that makes you genuinely feel vulnerable. So, and the queen of vulnerability, Brené Brown, says she doesn't feel like she needs to be vulnerable in the moment. So what else? Also people worry about, like, what if I do show up and share and then I'm just ignored? Like, people aren't interested, or they don't like what I've got to say, or they don't respond to it. And that does take courage to keep on showing up and to keep on sharing and to continue to connect. When you feel like people aren't 100% connecting or engaging with your message yet. And that's, it's a practice in itself, is really studying conversations and really getting to understand what it is that people are interested in or relate to or resonate with, and, of your clients and your customers and your audience. The other thing that comes up is a lack of confidence or a lack of self-belief, a lack of self-worth. So it's like, I just don't have the confidence to do it. And in that, we might look around at other people and we say, like Leonie Dawson's an example. Like, Leonie Dawson's so confident, like she can do it, but I'm not confident like that, so I can't. So we can kind of bring that up as a block or a challenge, and can be an emotional block holding us back. And we might find the idea of being more visible, it just makes us feel really destabilized or really unsafe. So we're going to address all of that as we go into the clearing, okay? So that's you thinking about your own blocks and challenges to creating the kind of visibility that you really want. Right, well, let's get into our clearing now. So what I'm going to get you to do is to place, we're going to start off with ESR points. So placing one thumb 1 inch above one eyebrow, 2 fingers 1 inch above the other. And I'm going to get you to close your eyes. And what I would like you to do is to think about how you would like to be more visible. So what being more visible actually looks like for you. So if you came up with numbers, I would like you to think about those numbers. So just imagining you're on the stage, or you're speaking in front of those bigger groups, or you've got, that more engaged, larger audience, or you're attracting more clients or customers. So whatever your goal was, think about that. And now I want you to think about the emotional blocks and challenges that we just went through, and any that are really relevant for you or your own specific blocks and challenges that come up. So any sense of fear that you can access, any sense of overwhelm or worry, or that fear of criticism or judgment, any frustration you might feel about, I want to be more visible, but I don't know how, or it's too difficult. You could think about if there's a time challenge, it's taking so long, or I have been trying for a while to grow my business, or to be more comfortable in myself, or whatever that is. And then, you might even add in a little bit of comparison. So this is purely to diffuse it, by the way, but just if there's any peers who you think, gosh, they have achieved so much success, or they are really seen as a leader or an authority, and that's really what I desire, or anything else, like they get this kind of opportunity or whatever. So just thinking about all of that and just really connecting to as much stress as you can. The reason why we're doing this is because this is what we want to help to bring down. So the more stress you can activate, the bigger clearing you're going to have, the bigger result you're going to notice. So let that go. Make sure you stay to the end now to do the actual clearing work. Don't leave yourself feeling like overwhelmed and stressed and worried about it all. The next thing we're going to do is some EFT. That's emotional freedom technique. So lots of people might already be familiar with EFT. Basically what we do is we tap on certain meridian endpoints, and as we're doing that, we say certain statements. The way we tend to say it is, even though and then we'll say the particular statement, I deeply and completely love myself. So I've gone through and created some more generic statements that relate to this topic and relate to things that people tell me about. So you might find you relate to all of them. you might find you relate to some of them and not others. If you want to insert your own in the space, instead, and say your own statement, that's completely fine. Even if some of them feel like they don't 100% relate to your situation, I'm going to go ahead and guess it's really going to probably help you to clear some stuff anyway. So let's go through. So all you need to do actually is just follow along with me. So just tapping on the outside edge of your hand and repeating after me. Even though I feel scared and worried about being more visible, I deeply and completely love myself. Tapping the top of your head. Even though it feels too hard to be more visible, I deeply and completely love myself. Tapping in between your eyes. Even though I don't want to show my authentic self and then be rejected or judged. Just repeating that. I deeply and completely love myself. Tapping on the outside edge of your eyes. Even though I hate the idea of being judged and criticized. I deeply and completely love myself. This is actually bringing up a little bit of stuff for me. I'll tell you afterwards what, but it's like good. Okay, even though I don't have enough self-confidence, I deeply and completely love myself. Tapping underneath your nose. Oh, even though I've been holding myself back for all this time, I deeply and completely love myself. Tapping underneath your lips, even though I have all of these blocks to being more visible. I deeply and completely love myself. Tapping on your collarbones, even though these blocks to visibility are stopping me from growing, they're stopping me from fulfilling my purpose, and they're stopping me from helping more people. I deeply and completely love myself. Awesome. Shake that out. So I told you that it was bringing up some stuff for me as I was doing it. Now, this is like, I find this really hilarious, even though I should be used to this kind of thing. But after I started promoting this webinar about visibility, an opportunity came through for me to be interviewed for a lady's blog and her podcast, and this interview will go out on YouTube and to her 50,000 plus newsletter subscribers. Now, her name is Melanie Tonya Evans, and she specializes in healing from narcissistic abuse, actually. So I was actually sharing my story. So I was ticking all the boxes here, because we're talking about something that's sharing my truth, something that doesn't feel vulnerable to me actually now, but that is it's quite personal. And yeah, it's going out to a lot of people. It's going out to a bigger audience. And so it was very interesting, because this came through within days of this interview. And then I found out that the interview itself will be published within the next few days of this interview, of our webinar rather. So yeah, as we're going through all of this, even though I feel really good about it and I feel really happy to have done it, and I feel that I have spoken my truth and been, very, very detached and hopefully able to help more people, it still is something that is, it brings up a little bit of stuff. So as we're going through and continuing to clear, that's going to be helping me to continue to clear around that as well, and just coming really right back to my center around it, and just my why. Did it to shine light on an issue. and to help other people who might be in that situation and to give them hope. So I'm staying connected to my why. Rightio. So now we're going to carry on with our clearing. So we're going to hold a point. It's heart 5. So this is heart 7, right on the edge of the wrist. Go down 1 centimeter. Heart 6. Go down 1 centimeter. That's heart 5, right? We're going to hold one wrist, then the other. So it doesn't matter which one you start with. Rest that into your lap. So heart meridian, it's all about being connected to your heart. And the thing is, when you're finding that all of these reasons, excuses, challenges, blocks are coming up around why you can't be more visible or why it's difficult or how you don't know how, etc., that's the mind, obviously. And what we want to do is drop back into the heart and drop back into the why, and to drop back into what is my message, why am I actually wanting to do that, and staying connected to that and staying connected to your own truth and having that real depth of confidence and self-belief and self-acceptance. I'm enough. My message is enough. So your mind won't find solutions, but your heart can, especially when we're talking about finding new solutions. The mind likes to go back to the past. So if you're wanting to create something new and different, you're going to want to be connected to your heart. So heart 5, what else? Well, it's about communicating with your own heart. It's about expressing your heart when communicating with others. And it's about listening from your heart. So you think, if you're out, if you're speaking, or even, like right now on a webinar, you think, is that really about listening? Well, yeah, it is, because it's listening to what are the challenges that people are experiencing in your community, or questions or issues, or what they would like to learn about. And then asking, what do people really want to know about, and what specifically challenges them, and how does it hold them back? And making sure you're really speaking to that, and then speaking from your own heart and your own truth. Switching sides. That's starting to feel good. Oftentimes, as you're holding this point, you'll start to feel some flow back through to your own heart. So you can use this point anytime that you want to feel more connected to your own heart, and especially around communication. So it is about communicating from the heart. Right, pericardium. This is right on the center of your wrist, just here. Someone's just chimed in and said this spot is very tender. So yeah, and even though you're only holding it gently, if you're finding it tender, that can mean that, yeah, there's a block there. So as you're holding that point, the energy is trying to move its way through. And it's like this is how I used to describe it when I used to work with clients in person. I describe it like a meridian point. I'll go back to heart 5 for a second, just as I'm talking about it. The meridian point, it's like, if there's a challenge or a block or a stagnation at that point, it might be like a rock being in a river. So as you're holding it, it's like helping to dissolve that blockage. So if it's a bit of a blockage, it might feel a little tender. Right, so pericardium 7 right here. So the pericardium is a heart protector. So we want to be able to feel that we can really protect our own heart. And that's what really is coming up for us when we're thinking about being more visible and we're worried about being attacked or criticized or judged. Do you know what? If we've got our own back and we're protecting our own heart, that's really going to be much less of a consideration, much less of a concern, because you've got just, you're with yourself. You're like, no, I really care for myself, and I know what I'm expressing and I know why I'm expressing. I don't need every single person to agree with me. You don't even think about it. It's not something I think about, actually. So pericardium 7 specifically as well, it can be around, it actually said it's around blaming, it can be around blaming others. So there might be things from your past that come up as you think about being more visible. Like, I can't be more visible because of what this person from my past would think, or because of my childhood, or because I didn't get enough opportunities to develop my confidence. You know, those types of things might come up. So it might be to do with family or to past situations. Someone's chimed in and said there's a lot of heat here. Again, good sign. Energy's shifting. I love it. Switching sides. So right in the center of your wrist there. So heart 7 is just saying, if you're feeling energy, it doesn't matter if you're not, but if you are, saying, yeah, you're on it. You're shifting your blocks, right, as we speak. Even if you can't feel it, don't worry, you still are. All right, so it's also about worrying about losing what I have. And I read that after I got the points and then I looked them up to get the information, like as in I intuitively got the points first and then found more information about them afterwards. And yeah, it's worrying about losing what I have. So all like the credibility that I have built up, the audience I have built up, the respect I have built up. Like, what if I become more visible and I lose it all somehow by, like, you know, speaking in front of a bigger audience or in front of more people, or being exposed to a bigger stage, and then I don't know, I make a mistake or something happens and then I'm going to lose what I already had. So that can be something that can come up, even if it's not something that you had consciously thought about. Still could be there for sure. And then the other thing that came up here was worrying about responsibility. So I found that very interesting as well, and I can totally see how that could fit. It's like the responsibility of owning your message, the responsibility of speaking your truth, the responsibility of shining a light on an issue. And I will say, part of the reason why I did that interview with Melanie Tonya Evans is from a sense of responsibility, because, you know, I would have loved to have had more information when I was in the situation that I was in. And I know, because it's already happened, that by sharing my elements of my story and my truth, I know that can be helpful to other people. So I feel a sense of responsibility. I've really come through and I'm thriving. I have a great life, and that's, yeah, a little sense of responsibility in a positive sense. It's from choice, not from obligation. Good. That feels clear to me. Next up, stomach 1, right underneath your eyes. It's quite funny, doesn't it? All right, so stomach meridian is often around worry and anxiety and overthinking. So of course, if we're worrying about visibility, good chance we're worrying about a lot of that stuff, right? And what this poem specifically was about was, I can't make others happy. Now, isn't that fascinating? Think about that for yourself. I can't make others happy. If on any level you feel that way, then how's the idea of being more visible going to feel? Very stressful, right? I can't make everyone happy. So, oh my gosh, but there's so many people. I'm not going to be able to make them all happy, and that's just going to be horrible if that's the mode of thinking that we're in, isn't it? So we're holding the points. It's helping all of that to shift, so don't worry. It also talks about living through friends or family, and I will add to that peers. So maybe instead of taking the actions that you want to take to be more visible and to show up and to do what it is that you wanted to do and grow your own business or be more authentic in your communication, whatever your specific goals might be, instead of doing that, you know, maybe you kind of just watch other people do it. Or you might feel a little bit jealous or a little bit envious sometimes, but that can be a positive thing. It says, I want that. So if I want it, how am I going to create that myself rather than worrying about other people? Starting to feel good. Now, 2 fingers here, 2 fingers at the top of your head, doing primary brain points right now. It's governing vessel 20, governing vessel 2024. So it's holding right here. So these are integration points. They help you to think really clearly. So as you start to move into the phase of thinking about, okay, well, what might this look like? What might my next step be? These are really good points to hold, to help you to think clearly. Not going into overwhelm or, any of the old negative thought patterns, but just actually being able to work it through. What do I need to do? What is my next step? So just starting to think about that for yourself now. What is my next step? If I would like to be more visible and I've already shared my challenges, then, I've already shared my goals rather, and I've been through and cleared some of my challenges. What would be an appropriate just next step? Doesn't have to be a gigantic step, but is it planning my own webinar? Is it submitting a guest post? Is it starting to put together my own little workshop or big workshop? It doesn't matter what. What's my next step forwards to being more visible? Is it really getting clear on my own message through journaling or through writing more regularly on my own blog or whatever platform? Good, let that go. And now we're nearly done. I would like you to go back to ESR points from earlier on. So 1 thumb, 1 inch above one eyebrow, 2 fingers, 1 inch above the other, and close your eyes. And now I would like you to imagine what it might be like to feel really comfortable being visible. And just imagining that you've already achieved that goal that you described earlier. So you've already, you're already speaking to thousands of people, or you've got that extra 2,000 people on your mailing list, or you have, spoken on those bigger podcasts that you've decided you'd like to do, or you've planned that workshop. So whatever it is, just imagining that's already done. And just I want you to imagine yourself, to see yourself doing it and see yourself feeling really comfortable and being in your truth and feeling really safe and really connected to yourself, and you're speaking from your heart, you're showing up from your heart, and you just feel good. Like this just is your new normal. This just feels like day-to-day normal life for you. It doesn't feel like it's a big challenge. It just feels like, yep, this is where I'm at. This is what I do. And I feel really, really comfortable. And I really fully accept who I am. And I own who I am. And I've got my own back. So it doesn't really matter what anyone says. I mean, of course, you're doing the work or you're showing up because you want to have a positive impact, positive influence, and, you've got a message to share, and feeling that sense of the right people are connecting to my message. And that's who I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the people who want and need and resonate with this message. And I feel really comfortable about it. And that's where I'm focused. I'm focused on my why. So just really reigniting that connection to your own why. Why do I want to be more visible? And just feeling like, yeah, that's why. And I can just feel so comfortable, so safe, and so settled here. This is my normal. Beautiful. You can open your eyes, release your hands, just give it a bit of a shake. Give yourself a bit of a twist. Take some deep breaths. If you'd like to add your comments or questions in the chat box, you can do that now. It sometimes takes a couple of minutes for them to start to show up my end. So I will continue to talk while I'm giving you the chance to do that. So what I am going to go on to talk about is my Align and Attract group program. So I mentioned right at the start that that's, you know, the way I'm directing a lot of my energy and my work these days. I've been running this program for some time. I first ran it, the first iteration of this program, actually back in 2011, and someone's chimed in. They said, I'm feeling very, very free with a massive smile on my face. And look, me too. My smile, and like you can hear my voice, it's dropped. I'm like all calm and chilled, even though I felt calm and chilled before. It's like next level. And someone else has said they're feeling lots of tingles, which I also love. So, you know, I started my business in 2009. By 2011, I started working with this business coach. I was already booked out with clients at that point, so it was quite quick. And she said, you're obviously doing something right, Kerry. You need to figure out what it is and bottle it. And I didn't have to think too much about it. I just knew straight away it's alignment. Like I'm in alignment with my business and with attracting those great clients, and I'm in alignment with what I want to create and with having, you know, growing a business. And so I really broke that down, and what came through was my alignment process. It was a channeled process to help you to shift to identify your own blocks. And what we use to identify the blocks in my chakra cards, right? So I had these designed last year for the first iteration of Align and Attract, and they look a little bit like this. So you identify irony. Feeling heard. So that could be your block. Speaking up is the second one that comes out. Okay, the next one that's come out is completely different. It's money. So anyway, you can find out what you identify your goals, and then you find out what your specific blocks are. And you can then shift those. So I teach you that process, and we go through and we align to specific goals on specific themes. So it's around aligning to your big intentions. We look at aligning to your ideal clients. Now I look at ideal clients in terms of the qualities of those ideal clients, and really getting, you know, to alignment with attracting those clients, the clients that you love working with and who love working with you, or customers, because we've got people who sell products in our program as well. We look at aligning to your fees, because if you don't feel comfortable with your fees and all over the place, other people don't either. This doesn't work. We also look at aligning to your income goals. So what is your next income goal? Making sure you're really in alignment with that, so you can continue to feel like you're growing the business, unless you happen to be where you already want to be, which is great. And then also aligning to attracting your right numbers. So whatever it is, number of clients to work with, number of participants in a program, different things like that. And so that's what we look at in the program. So it's 5 modules of content, and we have a Q&A each week, which you can contribute questions to. I've done 3 rounds now previously of Align and Attract. This is the current iteration of this program, which I had created last year. So it's all in this beautiful, incredible membership side. It all looks gorgeous, beautiful workbooks, materials for you to go through with, and the cards, of course, that you use. And you join this beautiful community, which is so incredibly supportive and very inspiring, creative, intuitive business owners of different kinds. So when I first taught that, course I mentioned back in 2011, it was all natural therapists. It was all people who are doing very similar work to me. But in Align and Attract, we attract heaps of natural therapists. Lots of kinesiologists are attracted to work with me, but with lots of other people as well. So we've got people who design incredible products. We've got writers. We've got artists. We've got what other sorts of businesses? Yoga teachers, makeup artists, all sorts of different things, solopreneurs who are working in different areas, but they're all soulful, intuitive, creative people. And the reason why they join us is because they know I'm holding myself back from creating the kind of business that I really want to create. I don't feel in alignment in some areas, or I find myself getting blocked, out of sync with myself. I find myself holding myself back, and I need to know how to get myself back into alignment. Well, that's exactly what I can help you with. And so that's the healing, like the clearing the internal stuff that's holding you back. So then you can go ahead and take the actions, go ahead and show up, go ahead and speak to, the big groups, or, share that beautiful message, whether it's on Facebook or on your blog, that connects with people. So I'm incredibly passionate about it. I'm incredibly passionate about helping other people who have their own businesses to get into their power and to create the kind of business that they really want. And the people who are in our program, they really love it. We've got tons of testimonials over on the site. It's at alignandattract.com. If you're listening live or within days of this, we do have a new live round starting. However, if you are listening later, it's totally fine also, because I'm going to be opening up Align and Attract as an evergreen program later in 2016, and you'll be able to join throughout 2017 at any time, that whenever you find it and you're ready to dive in and come and work with us. And, it's like I say, it's just a great place to connect with like-minded people and to keep on showing up and clearing your own blocks. So if you go to alignandattract.com, you can read all about the program. I've shared quite a lot of information there, and you can read all the different testimonials. There's heaps of different people who have shared their thoughts about the program. So I'm going to go through and share some of these comments that are coming through as we've got great work. Thank you, Kerry. Feeling much clearer and lighter. Awesome. Whoa. And there was a lot of stuff there I didn't even know I had. Can totally happen. Feeling very settled and relaxed. Can't stop yawning. Some new ideas came through about how I work with my clients, which is awesome. See what happens when you start to connect to your heart, you start to clear. Your actual wisdom can start to come through, which is what we see happening in Align and Attract. People just start to really get all these ideas, insights, inspiration, because they're connected to themselves. They're connected to their own wisdom. They're shifting everything, or a lot of the blocks that are holding them back. Wonderful, feeling fantastic, forward movement, and then thank you. Amazing. I feel so grateful to have been a part of it, feeling much clearer and relaxed. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for those of you who are joining us in the replay. I'm so thrilled that you're here. Another comment, the clearer now before I launch tomorrow. Woohoo! Oh, good luck with launching. Very exciting. So anyway, if you feel inspired to join, to take a look at Align and Attract, I would love to welcome you. If you've got questions for me, email them, and I hope you have an amazing rest of the day. So thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.